Okay, on number 7, you have f of x equals 1/3 times x cubed. If you'll notice, the original parent function, f of x equals x cubed, the x cubed part of it is you plugging in 1. 1 to the 3rd power is 1. So this is my y value. So remember, this x cubed is being multiplied by 1/3. It's not just x being multiplied by 1/3, but it's x to the 3rd power times 1/3. So these original y values, this 1, this 8, this -1, and this -8 are all going to be multiplied by 1/3. Okay? So if I plug 0 in, 0 to the 3rd power is 0. 0 times 1/3 is 0. So that point is still sitting on the origin. I plugged in 0, I got 0. Now when I plug in 1 and raise it to the 3rd power, I get 1. That's this original function. Now I've got to do 1 times 1/3. Well, 1 times 1/3 is 1/3. So when I plug in 1 into this one, I plugged in 1 and I'm going to get 1/3. So I'm actually only going up 1/3 of the way. So this graph is going to vertically, the green one is going to vertically shrink the black one. These y values are going to shrink by 1/3 of what they were. So 1/3 of 1 is 1/3. Well, let's jump on the other side. If you plug a -1 in, -1 to the 3rd power is -1. -1 times 1/3 is -1/3. If you'll look, these original y values have shrunk. They have vertically shrunk. Okay, they've become 1/3 and -1/3. Now, normally when you go out 2, when you raise 2 to the 3rd power, you get 8. But I've got to do 8 times 1/3. Well, I don't know what 8 times 1/3 is. So, now look, for those of you, when you get into your graphing calculator, if you are sitting on this y equals, to get out of that screen, hit second and mode, that quits. That clears out that screen. So I want to know what 8 times 1/3 is. So 8 times 1/3, well, 1/3 is really 1 divided by 3, and you get 2.66. Another thing for you to know, 8 times 1/3 is the same thing as 8 divided by 3. So 2.6. So when I plug in a 2 and cube it, I get 8. 8 times 1/3 is 2.6. So on the green graph, when I go out 2, instead of me going up 8, I'm going out 2, up 1, 2.6. Well, if I plug in actually 2.7, but you're estimating that, so 2.7. Now if you plug in a -2 and cube it normally, you get -8. Well, -8 times 1/3 is -2.66. So I'm going to go out 2 and down 1, 2.6. So there is the my graph multiplied by 1/3. So it has taken this black one and it is vertically shrinking it by 1/3. You see how it's, I kind of jacked that up right there, sorry. You see how it has taken this and squished it down vertically, okay? So the transformations on this one is, I have a vertical shrink of 1/3. If this number is bigger than 1, it's a vertical stretch, and it would take these y values and multiply them by a number bigger than 1, so they're going to get bigger, so they're going to vertically stretch. But this number between 0 and 1, this fraction, that causes a vertical shrink of 1/3. And that is the only transformation that is happening to this parent function of x cubed. Now, the domain of a cubic equation is always going to be all real numbers, and it doesn't matter what you do to it, how you transform it, it's always going to be all real numbers. So the domain is -infinity to +infinity. The range from the lowest y value to highest y value is -infinity to +infinity. The domain and the range on a cubic function and on a linear function is always going to be all real numbers. Now, odd function is symmetric about the origin. So you're looking across the origin, not across quadrants, but across the origin. So first quadrant to third quadrant, or second quadrant to fourth quadrant. And if you'll notice, I'm going out positive, up positive, and then on the other side, I'm going out negative, down negative. So across that origin, same thing's happening. Okay, you're going out positive, out negative, down negative. They're like going away from each other, opposite directions across that origin. So the black one is an odd function. So the original cubic equation is an odd function. Now, what makes an odd function not be an odd function anymore? It doesn't matter if I actually shrunk this one. That didn't change it from being an odd. The only thing that's going to make it not be odd anymore is if you have a horizontal or a vertical shift, shifting off the origin somehow. Shifting off the origin will make you be a neither kind of function. When it was odd, it changes it to a neither. And that is not the correct answer because I did not shift off my origin. If I shift off of my origin, then it makes it not be odd anymore, but I did not shift off that origin. All I did is shrink it. So this cubic function transformed by a 1/3 shrink, I still have an odd function. Sorry about that. So I still have an odd function on that one. Now, I'm going to stop this video. If you still feel like you need another one, I will go and do number 10 in the next video.